Okay, so on this first one, we've got x-intercepts and y-intercepts. X-intercepts are going to be the ones where it's going to cross the x-axis. So these are going to be written out as some number, comma 0. Okay, so it's going to be written out as some number, comma 0. So I'm going to match all of those up, which is going to be 1.7, 5, comma 0, -3 halves, comma 0. For y-intercepts, these are going to be written out as 0, comma some number. So 0, 4, 0, -6. And that 1, 1 is just going to be chilling by itself. Okay. Okay. Sometimes there's no answer. Does that make sense? All right. Looking on the next slide. It says send the stars to the x-intercepts of this function. So they got -4, comma 0 as an answer. How do we get the other one? 1, 0. Okay, how did we get 1, 0? Looking at the graph, how else could we have done it from the equation? Say it again, Nico. You can do the box method. Or if we got x plus 4, I don't know why y'all are talking over there. If I have x plus 4 and I wanted to make it -4, what would I have done? The opposite, or subtracting, right? So that's going to be x equals -4. If I have x minus 1 equals 0, I'm going to add 1. So that's going to give me x equals +1. So that's how I get that. All right. Try challenge number 1. Go to slide 3. So go to slide 3. So on here, what did you get as your answers? Let's see what somebody said. Okay, so Vincent said 3, comma 0 and -1, comma 0. So in order to find this, we're going to take each one of these and set it equal to 0 and solve. If you want to put it up here. And then 2x minus 6, we're going to set it equal to 0 and solve. That's going to add 6 to both sides. And then we're going to divide by 2. So that's going to give me x equals 3. For that x plus 1, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. And that's going to give us x equals -1. That's how we got these two. Okay. Thank you, babe. You too. All right, here's ABBA's strategy from the previous screen. Why did ABBA replace g of x with 0? So like, why are we setting this equal to 0? Because the y is going to be 0. Remember how we talked about how the x-intercept is some number, comma 0? That's why we set it equal to 0. Okay. All right, moving to slide 5. Send the stars to the x-intercepts of this function. This is a repeat from yesterday. So when we were factoring, we would put the first term in the first box, the last term in the last box. I need two numbers that if I multiply them together, I get -10, but I add them together, I'm going to get 3. Multiply to get -10, add to get 3. 5 and -2. Now, when I fill out the outsides, I'm going to say, what times what would give me x squared? Well, that's x times x. What times x would give me -2x? What times x would give me -2x? What times x would give me 5x? Okay, so we have x minus 2 and x plus 5. How do we solve that? We're just going to what? Not distribute. We're going to flip the sign, or we're going to set it equal to 0. So that's going to give me 2, comma 0 and -5, comma 0. Go. Abba, Darius, and Rishi factor the function 3 different ways. How can you see that the x-intercepts are the same in each equation? What do you think? Michelle, we're talking so much just a second ago. How do you see the x-intercepts are the same in each equation? What could you do to find it, Nico? Okay. How do we solve for the x-intercepts in here? We don't distribute. What do we set it equal to? 0, right? So I could do that for each one of these. If you wanted to distribute that, that's fine, but you would get the exact same thing. Same thing for this one. We're going to set it equal to 0. And we're going to set that equal to 0. And that one equal to 0. So what would our zeros be? What would our zeros be? So if I solve this out, what would I get? -2. And what else? -3. Okay. I'll do this one. The first term goes in the first box. The last term goes in the last box. Now, you're going to take A times C, which is going to be 24, and then put -11 in the bottom. What two numbers can I multiply together to get me 24, but add them together to get me -11? -8, -3. Okay. Now we're going to take out the greatest common factor, or we're going to ask ourselves, what times what would give us this box? So that would be x and 2x, right? Now, what times 2x would give me 8x? 4. And what times x would give me -3x? So our factors are x plus 4 and 2x minus 3. How do we solve for our zeros? Opposite, or we're going to set it equal to 0, right? So that's going to be x equals -4. So we're going to have -4 comma 0. And this one's a little tricky. We're going to move that 3 to the other side and divide by 2. Someone in my last class was like, I don't know how to write that. You literally write it as a fraction. So look at this really quick, because I totally lied to you. This should be a -8 here. I just didn't write it completely big. And then this should be a -4 here. That makes sense. Boom. See, y'all didn't even correct me. Weren't even paying attention. Failure. Okay, so that should be +4. Cool. All right. Go ahead and try number 8. Go ahead and try number 8. I need you to hear me because I'm going to say this like 3 times really quick. X-intercepts are the same thing as zeros. X-intercepts are the same thing as 0. So if I say find the zeros, I'm asking you to find the x-intercepts. I cannot tell you that on a mastery check or a test. I need you to know that vocabulary. Zeros, x-intercepts. I said it 4 times. All right, take a moment, try that out. Not too bad. All right, so if I'm going to write out an equation for this one, and I'm told that the x-intercepts or the zeros are x equals -4 and x equals 2. I'm going to switch the sign, and I'm going to say x plus 4 and x minus 2. There we see how I did that. I did flip the sign, put an x in front. Gucci? Okay, cool. All right, go ahead and try slide number 9. You're going to have to factor on this one. Oh, I'm sorry. You're writing a new quadratic that has exactly 1 0. So it touches the x-axis 1. How do we write this? How do we write this? Girl. So what's similar between y'all, not y'all all doing the exact same equation. Y'all lame. Okay, so y'all did x minus 3 and then x minus 3. And then some of y'all did x plus 3 and then x plus 3. So how do we get it to touch the x-axis one time? They both got to be what? The same number, right? And it's got to be both positive or both negative, right? Good talk. All right, slide number 10. Go ahead and take a moment, try that challenge. Show or describe as much as you can from the graph of this function, and then hit share with the class and look at what other people wrote as well. Take a minute. Okay, cool. So -1, 2, and -3 are our x-intercepts. Cool. Go to slide number 11. Yeah. Go to slide number 11. Tell me, how do you find the x-intercepts using the first equation? How do you find the x-intercepts using the second equation? Like, as if you were telling your friend, like, this is how you solve it. Okay. Once you finish that, go ahead and do slide 12 and 13. 12 is telling me whether or not you understand this stuff. Okay. So I need you to get your life together and try 11, 12, and 13. Okay, cool. So on here, what you would do is if you had this written out, all you would have to do is set this equal to 0 and solve. Okay. If you had this equation, what you're going to do is you're going to use the box. So first term goes in the first box, last term goes in the last box. And then you're going to ask yourself, what times what would give me -10, but added together would give me 3? So what two numbers will make that happen? 5 and -2. So now what times what would give me x squared? X times x. What times x would give me 5x? And what times x would give me -2? So this would be x plus 5 and x minus 2. You would put the first term in the first box, last term in the last box. Since this a is bigger than 1, what you're going to do is multiply a times c. So it's going to give me -72. Added together, we're going to get -6. So what two numbers can I multiply together to get me 72, but add together to get me -6?
Sorry. 12 and -6.
Okay, let's try it. 12 and -6. So that'll give me 12x here and -6x here. So what two numbers can I multiply together to get me 2x squared? X and 2x, right? What two numbers can I multiply? I'm sorry. What times x would give me -6x? And what times 2x would give me 12x? And 6 times -6 gives me -36. So I have 2x minus 6 and x plus 6. Can you solve for the x-intercepts from there?